He was my grandfather's best friend. Had no idea what business he was in, what he did, but he called me the next day and said, hey, I'd like to take you to lunch. Your grandfather told me you're going to open a State Farm agency. I need somebody to take over my company, and I think I can make you a better offer than what State Farm is.
We're joined today by Miller Hilliard with Surety Bond Solutions. Miller is another young entrepreneur, young father, young husband who punches way above his weight in terms of years of experience, but not miles. Miller works incredibly hard, and what we learned is that even as a young high school kid, was just drawn to learning more about entrepreneurship and being a solid business owner, growing his community, and just giving back. And so I hope you guys enjoy.
Hey, it's Armin with Attract. At Attract Advisors, we offer accounting advisory, tax advisory, as well as financial management services. We're lucky enough to work with very many hardworking, talented entrepreneurs across many different industries. Many of these individuals are world-class in their sphere and have great stories to tell. This is our way of highlighting their accomplishments and their insights, and we hope you enjoy these conversations.
In doing research, getting prepared for this podcast here, I learned that you were a pretty successful high school soccer coach. Yep. So, I'm interested to see how you got there. It was at Denham Springs High.
It was.
And are you an alum of Denham? Walk me through high school to becoming a coach.
Yeah, so grew up played through high school. Late in college, my high school coach reached out to me, and kind of the conundrum that Denham had is every year we'd have 2 or 3, maybe 4 elite level players, like 2 or 3 or 4 of the best players in the state. And the difference between the Denham team and the teams like Catholic and St. Paul's and Jesuit was they had 8 or 9 or 10 of those guys. So he called me and said, hey, we're putting together a club team that's basically all of our supporting cast for the high school team. Can you come coach it and just develop these guys so that when high school season comes around each year, our supporting cast gets raised from a C- level to a B+ level. And so I did that my last couple of years in college, and then first couple of years out of college, and then started working at the company, ended up buying, and he wanted to step away and asked me to come be the head coach. It was not really something that I had a ton of time for, but the program meant a lot to me. I did a lot of growing up on that field and with those guys, and it was kind of a cool opportunity to step back in and do it. So I ended up doing that for 4 years, won a lot of games. We had a lot of fun, really had some special relationships with some of those kids, and it's been really cool watching them go from freshmen in high school to getting married and being successful through college and graduating and whatnot. Built some really cool relationships. Again, we had a ton of fun, but the schedule to be able to balance at the time, growing to prepare to buy a company and then eventually buying it, was get at the office at 6 a.m., work until 3, head out to practice, run practice 3:30 to 5:30, go home, catch up for 2 to 3 hours of work, go to sleep, and do it again the next day. And it was basically that for 4 straight months. And it was just brutal. But I loved it. It was a ton of fun. It scratched that competitive itch quite a lot. But let's see, 2 years ago, my wife and I had our son. I had bought the business, and it was just unsustainable. So I reached out to the AD and said, hey, I need to step away because I can't do it right. I was like, I could show up and I could probably do it, but it's not going to be done at the level that the kids deserve and that the program has been built to. We need somebody full-time to do this. And I said, but my condition, you don't know anything about this sport. Let me hire my replacement. And I said, if you let me do that, I guarantee I'll stay on for at least a year and make sure the process and the transition is really smooth. So I did that. We hired a guy named Sean LeBlanc, who's originally from Ohio, had been coaching in New Orleans for 15 years, is a career coach. It's all he does. He eats, breathes, sleeps, coaching soccer. And it's been a great fit. So it worked out really well. In his first year, he was able to come in, steward the program, and I was able to have a reduced schedule and still be able to pour in. So instead of me spending my time managing the entire team and game planning and film study and all that, I just came in and worked with the defense. So it allowed me to make a big impact with 4 guys instead of a lot lower impact with a bunch of them. So it's been a really good transition. So I did 1 year of their 60% of the practices and all the games. And then last year was like 2 practices in the games, and officially kind of stepped away of just saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to give anywhere near enough of me to make an impact. It's probably a good time to fully step away.
But a great training ground of leadership.
For sure.
Right? And dealing with the players and the complexities of their adolescence and the lessons that they learn, and then their parents, and then the referees, and then all of the other pressures that come along with running a program.
For sure.
At a young age.
Yeah.
Right? And people are looking at you, they're 20 years your senior, and you're thinking to yourself, I should be looking at you to answer this question.
For sure.
And so, that translated obviously into the leader that you are today. I'm sure gave you some confidence to, purchase the company, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to learn, how'd you even get into this world? And what was that journey from your first day at this company to buying it in a short, number of years later?
Yeah. So I'll kind of give you the full story and kind of pick out what you like and don't like. So growing up, I knew I wanted to own a business, and I was kind of the epitome of everybody says, if you hated school and thought that it was a waste of time, how's it going owning your own business? That was pretty much me. Through high school, I worked 40 hours a week at Raising Cane's. That's what I'd rather do. I didn't feel much value from the school. I was a A/B student, but just didn't really put forth much effort. I'd work 30 to 40 hours a week, and I'd rather make and have my own money. So I did that through school. My grandfather, growing up, owned a business and really owned businesses his entire life. And he and I have always been extremely close. And I knew I wanted to own a business. I didn't know what that business looked like. I didn't know when, but from a very young age, I knew I wanted to own a business. So through high school and college, starting as a junior in high school, when we would be off school, I'd go have lunch with my grandfather and his friends. It was typically 15 or 20 business owners who were all, I guess at that time, in their mid-50s, mid-60s. And they'd go to lunch, and I would sit there. So it was a bunch of 50, 60-year-old business owners and then 17-year-old high school student me. And I'd just sit there and really wouldn't speak. I'd just listen and just kind of soak it up because I wanted to be the guy in the chair across from me. So did that through high school, did that all through college. And granted, the free meals when I was a broke college kid certainly didn't hurt either. But did that just to kind of soak up as much as I could. Then my freshman, sophomore year at LSU, I went and sold motorhomes in Hammond on the weekends. So showed up Saturday, Sunday, and summers, sold motorhomes, and left to go back to school. Which was an awesome learning experience. Learned a ton about people, about finance, about sales. Had a really good learning experience there, but also learned that I did not want to do that for the rest of my life. It wasn't what I wanted. So actually before the flood of 2016, I got connected with a local State Farm agent and went to go work for him. So worked for him my junior, senior year at LSU. Graduated and started in the Agent Aspirin program, which is the State Farm program to open a State Farm agency. So started through that, and then during that time, the State Farm agent suffered a tragic family loss. His young daughter, who was 21, who was my age at the time, passed away unexpectedly. It was just a horrible, horrible situation. He basically called from the hospital and said, "Hey, my daughter just passed away. I'm not going to be in." And we kind of just had to run the company without him. And it was especially difficult because I had no authority over anyone else on the team and just kind of got thrown in the fire. Hey, how can we keep this thing floating? How can we keep growing? How can we make sure that our customer experience remains unfazed and untouched in the absence of our leader, right? The guy who's really in charge. So that was a very challenging experience, but I tell people it was the world's worst reason for the best experience I could really ever ask for. So through that process, started getting closer to the position to actually open the State Farm agency. And then it just so happens at a lunch with my grandfather that I'd continue going to, my grandfather mentioned to his lunch group that I was getting ready to open a State Farm agency. The next day, I got a call from a guy named Randy, who I'd probably met 100 times at these different lunches, my grandfather's best friend. Had no idea what business he was in, what he did. But he called me the next day and said, hey, I'd like to take you to lunch. Your grandfather told me you were going to open a state farm agency. I need somebody to take over my company, and I think I can make you a better offer than what State Farm is. So I openly told him, I'm happy with the opportunity I have. I'll go to lunch with you, but I'm not really interested. I don't even know what you do. So fast forward, we didn't go into lunch. And so we ended up going to lunch, and during that conversation, just kind of learned more about his business and what it was, and things that were just really enticing to us. So in the State Farm agency, our agency was one of the best in the state as far as retaining business, and we would still lose 10 to 20% of the total book every year just because of rate sensitivity, right? If people are saving money, they leave and go elsewhere. In this business, rates haven't changed in like 50 years. The industry is not rate driven at all. It's all relationship driven. And Randy kind of explained to me, in the last 15 years, we've lost 3 clients, 4 clients. Like, we don't lose business, which was a really interesting, attractive reasoning to me. So we started kind of going through this process, and through it, and look, Randy has been the best person I could ever imagine to buy a business from. He was very clear throughout the entire process that the driving force for him in this transaction was that his customers were taken care of and his employees were taken care of. It was kind of the space of like, I've run this business for years and years and years. I'm not relying on this exit sale to fund my lifestyle. Like, I want to make sure my people are protected. That was really his heart in the transaction. So we came to a deal. He said, look, I think you're going to be a really good fit to run this company, but I don't know that for sure. So let's agree to this. I'll give you 5 years, come on board and double the size of our company, which at this point was a 50-year-old company that had only done this for 50 years. Said, come on board, double the size of our company in 5 years, and I'll owner finance the sale to you. So it was a very quick 180 of my wife and I looked at it and said, the State Farm agency route is more secure, and like, I know exactly what to expect out of it. But this other opportunity is really, really enticing, right? It's we don't have to go into some big amount of debt to get this thing off the ground. It's way more relationship driven. Instead of being a commodity, we're a partner in these contractors' success. So we agreed to do the deal, and I started with them July of 2019. And my first day, I thought I'd be selling insurance, and I walked in, and he dropped me a stack of financial statements on my desk and told me to start reviewing, and I had no idea what I was even looking at. It was
before AI.
Yeah, before AI, right? It was also funny. I got there first day at 7:30. Was trying to be the first one in the office, and it wasn't early enough. So I went the next day at 7, and it still wasn't early enough. And then the next day at 6:30, and it still wasn't early enough. I went the 4th day at 6 o'clock in the morning, and Randy was there before me. And I went, you know what? That's as early as I'm going to get here. Little did I know, he's an early riser, and he's typically there about 5:30 in the morning. So anyway, kind of fast forward, we went through this process. I spent the first year, and as you know, COVID came quite quickly after that, which threw a wrench in the plans that was certainly not expected. But I spent a year calling on the big name contractors that you see, right? Lemoyne, Arkell, MMR, Cajun, like those huge, massive contractors. And when I'd get in front of the owner, the answer was almost always the same of, I've had the same guy for 40 years, right? Like, this guy helped me when we were both getting like just started. When he retires or dies or anything like that, I'll be happy to give you a chance. But until he does, I don't really have anything for you. And that was challenging because our buy sell was solely contingent on me doubling the size of the company. So time was not my friend.
Yeah.
But the flip side of it reinforced everything that I wanted about the business, right? That it was all relationship driven, that it wasn't transactional, right? Like, these people were telling me to my face, I don't really care what proposal you're making. Like, I'm not looking to save money on this. I have a guy that I've trusted that's helped me grow in this company from nothing to where we are today. Like, that's my guy until he's not, right? So after it's about a year and a half of kind of spinning my wheels doing the same thing, I flipped the approach and said, how can I be the guy that in 40 years everybody says, man, I've been with Miller for 4 decades. When something happens to Miller, I'll give you a call. But
right.
Until then, sorry. So I moved the approach and said, let me work with every brand new contractor. Like, as soon as you get your license, don't know what a bond is, don't need one, nothing. Let me get in with them then. Let me do all of the legwork with them for free, right? Let me provide just as much value as possible, guidance, direction, info, input, whatever they need to help them grow their company, with the idea of, if I do all of this legwork now, I'm going to help these guys grow. And some of them might never become big contractors. Some of them will. But instead of getting 15 huge contractors, I'm going to get 500 really small ones and just spend so much time and effort and energy helping these guys grow. And as they do, we'll get referrals from them. Our business will grow through them. And that's the way that I chose to grow it. So we started growing like crazy through that effort. And 4.5 years later, we had double the size of the company and ended up buying it January of 2024. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, happy ending for sure. Thinking back to your story and the steps that you took, I mean, man, what do you think people would pay to be in that mastermind of your grandfather and his business? I mean, knowing what you know now about what people pay for masterminds, and I mean, I'm sure there was just a bunch of buddies back then, but like, is there any better way to learn about business and life than surrounding yourself with people who are 30 years ahead of you? No.
So look, I tell people that I've been very fortunate in the early parts of my career to have a lot of success. And really the only credit that I'm willing to take for that is that I was intentional in surrounding myself with really, really smart, great players. So I had lunch with my grandfather at a minimum monthly, but typically a couple times a month with nothing but business owners. Like people, like one of the guys in there has owned multiple construction companies, was a partner in one of the largest construction companies in Louisiana. Actually, a couple of them were guys that own RV dealerships and car dealerships and basically every business line in between. And I was able to soak up everything from them. My dad plays in a poker group on Friday nights that is nothing but doctors and business owners. At 18 years old, I started going every Friday night with them through college while a lot of my friends were at the bar hanging out or drinking. I'd tell them, hey, I can do some Saturday, but Friday I'm booked. And I'd go Friday. And look, I enjoy playing cards. It's a fun time. But I got unlimited, unfiltered access to nothing but extremely successful doctors and business owners for like 6 to 8 straight hours every single Friday night. I've joined a lot of really good business groups and have just been able and been really fortunate to surround myself with awesome players. And then even to my closest friends are all extremely successful in their different industries. And I'm a firm believer that you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm. So how was it that you made your way into some of these groups, like with your contemporaries now?
Yeah. So one of the groups, it's a Wednesday morning breakfast group called Alpha Strategic Partners. It's been an awesome group filled with just tons of great people. A business mentor of mine who I met through this Friday night poker group. He was in the valve, like industrial valve manufacturing business. And he was in this group before he sold his company. As I told him that I was getting into this business and was going to eventually buy the company, he said, man, I think you'd have a lot of really good connections from this group. So he ended up connecting me to that. I joined the group, I guess 7 years ago, and it's been an awesome group. We've been able to drive value to each other, some business, but more so really good friendships, really good connections. There's people in there that are owners, presidents, or managers of some of the larger, more reputable places in Baton Rouge and in Louisiana. And it's pretty cool. In all reality, we can contact just about anybody in the state we want to within 1 or 2 connections of that group. And then other groups that I joined in that were more industry specific, like Associated General Contractors and Louisiana Surety Association and Certified Financial Managers Association, different groups like that. And then an organic group that kind of formed. You might know Miles LaRue.
Yeah.
Miles kind of started Goals with Bros. It's kind of a silly name, but really started as 15 or 20 guys. I think it's up to almost 30 guys, and we kind of capped it there. But was just young professionals who were really intentional about their family, their business, and their faith. And the group is half beer drinking, but is also half goal setting and keeping each other accountable. So we'll take an annual retreat and review prior year's goals. And, there's a bit of vulnerability to where when you set your goals privately and you say, I'm going to hit this, if you don't hit it, you're not really having to raise your hand and tell anybody I didn't hit this. When you publicly share your goals with a group and then know quarterly and annually, you've got to stand up in front of them and say, hey, either I crushed this or I didn't. And I think a lot of people in the business space have a little bit of pride. I think it's kind of what makes entrepreneurs, and standing up in front of your peers and telling them, hey, I missed the mark big time is kind of a motivating factor for sure.
For sure. It's the fear and it's the potential embarrassment. But I mean, Nick Saban says like high achievers want to be held accountable. Like they want to be coached up. And there's something really beautiful about being held accountable because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be held accountable, and then it's also uncomfortable to hold other people accountable.
No doubt.
But like, yet when you get past that, it's like, you know, in the last podcast we had just so happened to be before here, but you know, it basically talked about like confidence is just on the other side of fear, and we're fearful to give negative feedback. We're fearful to put ourselves out there, but like once you get that, like you're twice as strong as you were had you had not, made that effort. And I too am involved in a lot of different groups. And, you know, you are obviously a young husband, young father, young business owner like me. There's not many people. How old are you?
29.
Okay, so I'm 34. So there's not many people who I interview who are younger than me.
Yeah.
But we know the stress of, you know, the wife who's like, dude, another sales group, like another mastermind, like, are you serious? Yeah. And so I'm curious for you, like, how do you kind of balance all of that? And like for me, it's like, you know, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, like that's the trade-off. Like she knows that like I've got to work for both of us if I'm going to provide and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I'm curious to like hear about your journey with that as like a young like father, husband, and entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think that is certainly a challenge that every business owner with a family faces. And I don't know that there's really a good answer to it. So my wife teaches at St. Joseph, so her schedule is more conducive of the jobs to be a mom. And staying at home with kids is something that is kind of on her heart that feels like we're heading in that direction. We'll see exactly kind of where it shakes out. My view is all day during the day, like I jokingly say, I got to go to war. Like you can do what you need to do. Like I got to go here. I got fires to put out. I have to go, you know, I got to go kill for us to eat all day. Right. And I've also had to recognize that the things that I want to build and provide for our family are for our family. So I also have to value the time with them now. Because like I know if I build all these things to give to my kids and then they look at me like, yeah, but like, I don't really know you, right? Like you weren't here for me. That didn't do anybody any good. Mm-hmm. So I've had to kind of just constantly remind myself that why I know in the long term, doing these things for them are in their best interest. Right now, they just want me. They don't want any of the things we can provide. They just want me. So I've been really intentional about spending time with them. I set up my phone that at 5 o'clock on the dot, every one of my apps blocks out until 8 p.m. So my typical schedule, I'll get to the office 6:30 to 7. 6:30 we're a little busier. 7 we're a little slower. And then between 4 and 4:30, I'm heading home. So I'm typically at home right around 5 o'clock. And then from 5 to 8, if a customer calls me, I'm always going to answer, but I'm typically not checking emails. My social media is blocked out. And from 5 to 8, it is my son's time. Like I'm just there to play with him, do whatever he wants to do. I'll go put my phone to the side. And that's my time with him. When he goes to bed, then it's time to log back in. Mm-hmm. And while that works really well from a business standpoint, I recognize that it does leave limited time for my wife, who's incredible, and I do need to do better. Actually, a buddy of mine, Tim Carroll, agreed to punch me in the face each month if I didn't take my wife on a date. So
good accountability.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, it's interesting that you say that because it's the same thing for me. And I want to hear more about that app blocking though. So is it just whatever's built into the iPhone?
Yeah, just the iPhone's app. You can set a schedule on it. So.
Yeah, because I've gotten the little ads for the brick.
Yeah,
and
the brick would probably be better. But if I choose to go check my email or check Facebook or whatever, I'm having to intentionally like click it. It's telling me you're blocked, and then I have to actually click. I'm going to override this for 15 minutes. So there is a little bit of like guilt of me clicking this saying, why don't I just go spend this time with my son instead? So that's been a way I've been able to do it. And then typically in our business, stuff on the weekend just typically doesn't happen because our stuff is predominantly bid work, and there's only so much I can do without responses from the underwriters who don't work on the weekends. So weekend work, there's just typically not that much of it. And when there is, it's not time sensitive. It might be this needs to be done by Monday, and that's typically more like accounting or business management type stuff, not like urgent workload stuff. So that's easy enough to say, hey, I'm gonna just wake up a little early Saturday, Sunday and do it, or once he goes to bed, I'll do it. So I'm typically able to spend a lot of my time on the weekends with the family.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I was probably a little older than you when we say my wife retired. Like, it was after the birth of my second kid. And if I thought I was motivated before that, like, it was on. Like, I reached an unlocked level of productivity and efficiency and of just like not caring about failing or getting rejected, because like literally in my mind, our lives depended on it. And I mean, you know, I'm not to say like anybody whose wife works and is a working mom, like that they don't have that same edge. Yeah. It's just for me, like it was like all my chips were
pushed to the middle.
Yeah. And it paid off. But there's a price for that too. And it's just about that balance, man. It's about having conversations like this to where like now I'm reminded, like, yeah, like, I mean, I got called out yesterday at my daughter's soccer practice. This guy's like, man, like you must be going through something. Like you're in the middle of it. I'm like, yeah, man, like, 2 of my main people are out. Like my clients have important things that they need, and all my kids are doing is just messing around with their friends. Like I'll spend time with them later. Like this is like the only chance that I get. And then I was like, man, I'm kind of like embarrassed that like I was on my phone at soccer practice. Right. So
yeah, it's hard to balance. Like there is no easy answer, because when we signed up for this, we didn't sign up for 40-hour work weeks, right? Like we signed up to be on call whenever we're needed. And you know, saying that we signed up for this reminded me that, like I said, my wife is awesome, and there was a spell of, I guess, about a month to where my lead account manager was out on 2 different vacations. She had a vacation scheduled for a little over a week, and then her daughter's senior trip came, and it was like for basically, I mean, 2/3 of the month she was out on vacation. My vice president was in Europe for a month, that those happened to overlap. And then Randy, who I bought the company from, was at his house in Arkansas for a couple weeks. So I was quite short-staffed. And then the middle of that had to part ways with a long-term employee. So we were kind of going through it, and we had some very large, very complicated deals that we were having to put together. And I went home one day, and my wife was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Man, I've been getting my butt kicked. Like this is just, it's been brutal." And she reminded me that this is what I signed up for. She was like, if you think about you're dealing with challenging problems, she goes, yeah, if they weren't challenging problems, they would have been handled on the first desk. And if they were a little bit more difficult, they'd have been handled on the next person's, like the next supervisor's desk. So the only problems that make their way to you are problems that the other people in the organization weren't cut out to handle. And that's what you signed up for when you decided to own a business. And I thought that was some really good wisdom from my teacher wife to remind me that I signed up to fix the problems that other people couldn't fix.
And it's so funny because you mentioned social media and then the wife, and I just get I get these videos a lot, like on my feed, like on Instagram, where it's like the wife sends you like a great job, like keep going for the family, and then that Linkin Park song hits, like I wanna feel, and then it's like all this badass stuff happening, and
fighter jets and bears
Rocky.
And stuff. Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll both get that now because they're listening to us.
But our FBI agent heard it.
It just goes to show, isn't it the most important decision that we ever make as business owners and men and fathers is our spouse?
For sure.
I mean, what a blessing it is to have that support.
Yeah, it is. That reminded me of 2 things. Every time I hear people like talk about, marriage is like, it's so difficult. Don't get married, this and that. I'm thinking, dude, like y'all married the wrong people. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you married the wrong people. Like, that's not the experience that I have. So it's.
And all we do is stack great decisions, right? And not all of our decisions are great, but who we marry, who do we allow our kids to hang out with? Where do we go to church? What friends do we choose?
For sure.
What music channel do we listen to? But it all goes back to that supportive spouse. I mean, I could not do anything without my wife. And that's the thing, I get together, the old ball and chain, I don't have anything bad to say about my wife. So you guys could talk about your wives if you want, but I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. People are like, oh, is your wife going to let you do this? My wife doesn't let me do anything. My wife just recognizes that I'm not going to make decisions that are bad for our family. So if I tell her I'm going to do this, that's not really how this relationship works, right? I don't need to approve her decisions or her approve mine. We're both on the same team, pulling in the same direction. So
good. So good. Yeah. And our stories are very similar in the sense that, when Attract got off the ground, there was a small tax and bookkeeping firm that we bought and owner financed in. And it was actually in the building, right behind us. And the owner finance deal happened a lot faster than we thought it would in the beginning because we were able to grow it. But having that mentor and that just wisdom of it sounds like Randy has seen it all before.
So valuable.
You had a cheat code.
100%. I tell people all the time, Randy is the world's best mentor and the best person I could ever imagine to buy a business from. When I started with him, he's now 72, I believe. He's just done things the same way for a long time. So I got in and it was heavily paper focused, right? Our industry as a whole is still pretty outdated that when contractors turn in bids, they have to turn in original wet signature, physical seal, they want the originals. They don't really need it. That's outdated, but that's the way our industry is. So all of our files were physical paper files. I went to Randy and was like, I think we'll be way more effective and efficient to just get away from paper altogether and just go digital. He was like, yeah, I've been working for him for a couple months. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. I went to him when we started growing pretty rapidly and was like, hey, we're either going to need to hire more people to maintain this growth, or we're going to have to find some system to get more efficient because we can't maintain this. And again, this is 2 years into our 5-year deal to hopefully buy him out. And he's like, yeah, I'm on board. If this is what you think we need. He's been so great. Even to now, there was a deal that was just extremely, extremely challenging. And I'm sitting in my office just talking with him about it. And he can tell it's weighing on me, that it's just a challenging way that we're trying to figure out how can we piece this deal together, because this is important to the client, which makes it important to us, right? We're trying to find a way to get this across the line. And Randy's walking out, and as he's walking out of my office, he kind of jokingly says, I'm glad I'm not sitting in your chair anymore, and then laughs and kind of snickers and says, you'll figure it out, but if you don't, come see me and we'll make a plan. So he's done such a great job of giving me the space to make decisions or learn a hard lesson, and also providing kind of the safety net of, hey, we're going to make sure that it's always right, but I'm going to give you the space to figure it out yourself. So I could not speak any more highly of a human being than I could about Randy.
That's so great. And so it's amazing to see how open-minded he is, because I'm kind of dealing with that right now with just a few of my older clients who, this is the way we've always done it. Well, that doesn't mean it's the
worst
best
excuse
way.
in the world.
But for someone who has been doing it on their own for that long and to be that open-minded, where do you think he gets that from?
I think it all comes back to his heart in the deal that we struck. Again, if his heart in the deal was, I need an exit at some point, but I don't really want to do it, then I think which is a lot of people's exit, right? They want this big check, but they're really reluctant to sell the business and give up authority and to give up power. I think those relationships can kind of get contentious, right? It's two people almost pulling in different directions. Randy's intention from the beginning was to make sure that his customers and his employees were taken care of long past him. And in that, he recognized that I'm bringing somebody else in who might have different views. As long as we're aligned that our people come first, both internally and our clients, I'm okay if he has a little bit of a different vision in what that looks like with me, as long as we're all in agreeing that this is what the goal is here. And I think that's really a lot of where it came from. And I think he also recognized that there is value in some of the new technology and whatnot, but it wasn't a strong suit of his. And again, that speaks a lot about him to recognize, like, this is something that probably needs to be done, but I'm not an expert in it. If somebody else has good ability in that space, let's let them do it.
So speaking of being open-minded and of new tools and of new ways of doing things, one of the things that struck me the most as I learned more about you and your company is how much you're embracing AI and how it's just been really transformational for you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to, like, where are you learning about this stuff? Is it something that's industry focused? Are you in these AI specific masterminds? And, you know, if you don't mind, go into kind of how it's working in your business right now.
Sure. How did you know that we were big into that?
I think Jacob told me.
Okay.
But also, I happenstance started hosting this AI roundtable. So we meet here on Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. and we'll go to like 7 to 9, and that's like not even enough time.
Yeah.
Because it's just so deep. And I mean, I'm looking around the room and I'm like, man, these guys are at my office. Like, that's really cool.
Right.
But it's really centered off this guy, Justin Obney, from Obney AI,
Yeah.
who, in talking with Justin, you know, he knows everybody who's touching AI around town.
Right.
And Justin's my neighbor. Our kids are great friends, and like, we go way back.
Yeah.
And he's from Livingston, like, ish. I mean, Denham or Walker or Live Oak or something like that. And so he put it all together, and then Jacob had told me, you know, about what you guys were doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I want to be on the tip of the spear of AI. And when we're getting there. But it's so cool to see people actually, like, doing it and not just talking about it.
Yeah. So I guess backing up, those things tie in really well to each other. In that process of talking with Randy about we've got to get more efficient, we decided to look for a management system. So some kind of out-of-the-box system that was built for our industry to just manage our process, right? Like, we get a request in, let's make sure it gets issued without any mistakes, because in our space, a mistake is extremely expensive and extremely damaging to your reputation. So like a common example, if a customer calls us and says, hey, we're bidding this job to LSU, can you provide this bid bond for us? If my team makes the bond out to LSU, that's getting thrown out, and if he's the low bidder, he is not getting the project, because LSU receives bids under the name of the Board of Supervisors of Louisiana State University Mechanical and Agricultural College. That's their official title that they receive their application or their request for proposals in. So if we don't know that, or if we misspell any of those words, we flip letters, it's an invalid document and gets thrown out. So accuracy is so important. So we started looking at these these programs, and we found that there were really two that were focused in our industry. So we interviewed both of them. They were both okay. What we found is that any of the products were either initially built for insurance agencies. They were trying to kind of just like merge into the surety lane, but the workflow process is so different from one another. Or they were built for carriers, and they were like, well, we're servicing the carriers. Let's just try to kind of make a makeshift version for agents. So the workflow process just didn't really work well. So we bought one of them, and for, I don't know, a year and a half we used it, and I had to just beat on my team. Please use a system, please use a system, please use a system. And it was clear they didn't want to. It took them longer, it was harder on them to use it, but the intention was to make us more efficient, which it was not doing. So I ended up getting connected with a guy named Brandon Cornett, who's good friends with Justin.
Yep.
And Brandon built us a software, and Brandon was incredible. So we talked with, I think, 2 or 3 software development companies. Both of the other ones we talked to were kind of like, yeah, well, cool, we can build it. And that was it. Brandon came to my office. I went to Brandon's probably half a dozen times because he just wanted to get his head wrapped around, what do you do? What does your workflow process look like? And then his thing was, once I fully understand what it is you do and what it needs to look like, we can build it for you. But until then, I'm just going to build what I think might work, and then we're going to have to tweak it from there. So Brandon and I got together. We spent probably the better part of a year developing this software. He launched it for us, and it has been incredible. So we actually launched kind of a side business out of that because we showed it to some nationwide colleagues who I guess would be competitors, but we don't compete from a geographical standpoint. And the response was pretty overwhelming. Like, this is so much better than anything that we have because it's designed for our workflow. So we built that. We've used that for 4 years now, maybe, something like that. And it has been awesome for our business. It's allowed us to grow rapidly. I mentioned we had to part ways with a longtime employee. We were able to absorb her workload without adding team. As we've grown, we've added one part-time employee, but have been able to manage more work with less overhead and done at a higher level with less checking required. So that's been one piece that's been hugely, hugely impactful for us. And then the last 3 months or so, from an AI standpoint, is when it's kind of flipped for me, because I use ChatGPT religiously. Like, I mean, I was always asking questions, running through. I kind of used it as my thought partner, but I never really used it for, workflows or operational things. It was just kind of bouncing ideas, discussing things, business planning, whatnot. And then earlier this year, we got into workflow automation, which has been awesome for our business. So we were able to basically build a workflow that typically our workflow looks like a contractor sends us a request form, and sometimes they'll include the specifications, which we always want. 'Cause like I mentioned, they might think that it's LSU receiving the bid, but it's actually a different specific legal entity, or they might say that the project is, renovation to attract office space, but it might actually be, attract office dash renovation to first floor. And if we don't tie it up exactly, we run the risk of it being thrown out. And the last thing we ever want is for a contractor to win a project and then say, hey, you were supposed to make, like if it's a $10 million job, hey, you're supposed to make $1 million on this. Never mind, this is gone because, somebody didn't put a word correctly or missed a number or flipped a letter. So kind of a
high
tough
stakes.
Yeah, right. So the workflow, that's why the specs are important to us.
Yeah.
So our workflow process would look like a customer emails the request in. We create a folder naming it a specific way so they're all easily searchable. We save the request form. We go online and find the bid specifications. We save the bid specifications. We print 2 copies of the request form. So 2 different account managers can kind of keep a physical log of where it is in the workflow. And then we stick it into the system to keep track and generate the bond. That typically takes 20 to 30 minutes is kind of what that workflow takes. And also kind of interrupts. If one of our team members is actively doing something and that comes in, they either have to wait until they're done doing what they're doing and then they address that, or they stop what they're doing to address it. And it's just kind of a cumbersome process. So we built a workflow that basically does all of those steps automated. It checks inbox every 2 minutes for those requests. As soon as it gets one, it does that entire process for us and then sends an email to us, hey, this is done. And that's been awesome for us. I think that can probably allow us to double the size of our company without adding additional staff.
That's amazing. And so when you think about change management, like 3 years ago when you kind of built the software and then more recently with AI, how do you find time to focus on that among all of the other things of your business?
Yeah, so it's funny. I had to do an AI therapy session late last year, so like into Q3 of last year. So to start last year, we hired a new sales guy, so I spent a lot of Q1 and Q2 training him, and then we had to part ways with that employee in Q3, so I spent a lot of Q3 building systems and setting up procedures to make sure that all of the work was being handled properly. Had to offset because she had some other kind of miscellaneous tasks that we had to reallocate. So I was spending a lot of the time doing that. We were doing a lot of the accounting work, which then we had offloaded some of that. And then I got like late Q3, early Q4, and I kind of sat back and I'm hearing my team talk about how busy they are. And I looked up and was like, well, what is my role now, right? Like a lot of the urgent time, like there's still challenging cases that come to me. There's still customers that always will be their direct point of contact, which I love. But a lot of that legwork was taken off, right? Like we had an accounting group doing the accounting, right? We had certain team members processing things, using the workflows and using the software. Things are being processed so much more quickly, which freed up their time for us to delegate more things to the team. A lot of the sales was pushed off to our sales guy, and it kind of was like, all right, well, what's my job? And I spent 2 days with a closed door going through a ChatGPT therapy session to kind of discover what I needed to do to grow the company as a whole, and really not be working in it, but working on the company, to use the standard business cliche. And we kind of came to some ideas and a real well-defined scope of work for me of what that was supposed to look like. Which part of it's this, right? It's being visible online and on social media, and having that drive people to us. And really the moment of inflection for me of why social media was important, because I don't like posting on social media. If you go and look at my personal Instagram, I bet I haven't made a post in 2 or 3 years. Like I don't enjoy that. But I was having lunch with a friend of mine who's in the real estate space, and his boss, when he started this company, was at every event. I mean, if I opened LinkedIn, I saw his face. If I opened Facebook, I saw his face. If I went to any event, real estate related or not, he was there. Like, he was just so in front of my face, and kind of the perception was, man, this guy's crushing it. And then as he hired more agents and was out of kind of the day-to-day deal workflow, he stepped back to social media presence. And I mentioned to my broker, I was like, I guess he's not really doing that much anymore. And he went, what are you talking about? He's busier than he's ever been. And it kind of clicked to me of, yeah, you know what? If you would have asked me, I probably would have, if you would have said, hey, think about this. The guy who now has 15 agents working for him, do you think he's busier or less busy? I would have said he's busier, but just not seeing his face in front of me, kind of in the back of my head was like, I guess he's not doing much anymore. And then I immediately thought, man, I don't ever post on LinkedIn. I don't like doing that. I don't enjoy doing it, but are people thinking the same thing? Like, we might be crushing it, and if nobody knows, it's not driving any business, any value. So that became an intentional shift of being more present there, sharing some wins, which is kind of a weird space because we don't ever want to disclose any confidential information, but there's also cool deals that we put together that it feels like, those deals you complete and you're like, man, nobody else could have done that. We have those that we want to share and share some cool things going on, but also protect confidentiality. So that became a big shift of, let's be visible and let people know about the things we're doing. Because if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, did it fall or did it not? And that was kind of what clicked to me. So that was part of the strategic vision, was to be much more out there and look at Jonah, our sales guy, as a fisherman, throwing out lines, trying to catch fish. And my job was to push as many fish towards the boat as possible. So I was more the magnet and he was the fisherman.
Interesting. And his name's Jonah.
His name is Jonah. Okay? I guess I didn't even think about the fish analogy, but there you go.
Spend some time in the belly of a whale.
That's right.
That's awesome. So when you look at your week, do you try to say, like, okay, for 2 4-hour time blocks, I'm going to work on AI, or like Thursday's my marketing day, or like, do you block your schedule like that? Or like, what have you learned about your schedule over time when developing these projects? Yeah,
so I try to protect Mondays. So I kind of have an internal saying, Mondays are for me, that Monday if there's something I need to do on a Monday, I will. But as much as I can help it, I try not to take meetings on Mondays. I try not to schedule lunches on Mondays. I try to get everything prepared and kind of ahead of where it needs to be on Monday, so things run smoothly for the rest of the week. And then in that ChatGPT therapy session, we built what my week, month, quarter, and year should look like. And part of that was at least once a week having lunch, dinner, breakfast, a meeting, coffee, golf, whatever, with an existing client. And then another time that week with someone I would consider to be a center of influence, whether they're in our space or not in our space. Because I recognize that my business is all a relationship, and we get at least one, probably 2 or 3 referrals every week from existing clients, from friends, from CPA firms, from from any different, some unrelated, some related partners or people that we know. And part of that was, I enjoy that. Like, I love when people call and say, hey, I got your number from John. He said you're the best in the business, you could help. Like, I love that. That's something that really,
fills your cup.
It does. And during our ChatGPT therapy session, we kind of agreed that if that's what we want, if I want to drive business to us that way, I need to be out and I need to know everybody. Like, I need everybody in Baton Rouge who knows people, who's connected, to know me one way or the other. So that's been an intentional shift. I don't set what day that has to be, but typically on Monday, it's like, hey, let's schedule a couple meetings. Who have I not, what customers have I not talked to in a little bit? who have I not had lunch with recently, stuff like that, to just build and foster relationships with people who are connected and have influence. And then on Wednesdays, my AI assistant pings me for social media and basically interviews me of like, hey, tell me what went on this week. Tell me about events you went to. Tell me, like, and it's the idea is basically it would interview me like I'd be on a podcast, and then from there it would pull content ideas and push them, and then I can take those and then obviously change them to where they're me, but it can drive ideas of, hey, these are things that we need to do. For example, earlier this year, I guess it's been a month or two ago, we got a call from a contractor literally on the other side of the country. And he said, hey, man, I got your number from another contractor in Seattle that we write. And he said, the biggest thing I've ever done is $600,000. I want to bid this job for $3 million. I think it makes a lot of sense for me, but I called my surety agent. He laughed at me and told me there was no way. And that was the end of the conversation. I mentioned that to my buddy. He told me you were the best, and if anybody could help, you could. Is that something you could do? So I started looking at the deal, and in our space, twice your biggest job completed is kind of as big as sureties feel comfortable with. But I started looking at it and was like, man, this job makes just a lot of sense. That was on a Thursday afternoon at like 4 o'clock our time. And we worked with it by Thursday night, Friday, and I worked on it Saturday morning. By lunchtime Saturday, we had an approval in place. The guy wins the job and is going to make a ton of money. Like it was just a huge springboard for his business. And I mentioned that in my AI content session. It was one of those like, you have to share this, right? This is such a cool story. It's such a success story. Let's do it in a way to where we protect all the confidential information. We're not going to discuss financial strength or specific location or customer's name or anything like that. But this is a really cool story. We got to make sure we get this out there. So the AI help from the marketing standpoint has been really good.
And then the ability to take this type of content and turn it into a newsletter or turn it into, little snippets that, you're just loading the clip of stuff to get out.
Right.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear your talk on like the business lunch, because I used to go to lunch a lot. I don't go to lunch so much anymore. If somebody invites me, of course I'll go. But like and maybe it's because a lot of what I talk about is personalized and maybe largely confidential. Like some things you talk about, you're like, man, I hope the person at the table isn't listening. And then like I eat very fast and I probably don't have the best table manners. And so like my business partner Armin is always like, man, we need to take him to lunch. I'm like, no, dude, like we've got an office. Like let's just invite him here. We'll say, let's have a cup of coffee and let's like catch up. So like I'm curious for you, obviously you're going to play to your crowd, right? And your crowd maybe goes out for lunch or whatever it is, but like walk me through like how you think about that.
Yeah. So in my years doing this, I think I've asked someone for their business. Like I could probably count it on one hand. Like that's not the way that I feel that I want to grow my business. My view is I just want to build relationships. I want to drive value, and to the point that like friends and customers kind of just like, why wouldn't I use him, right? Like, why would I use anybody else? Like, Miller's a good friend of mine. Like, obviously, let's just use him. So when I'm at lunch, I don't ever pitch anything. I don't offer anything. I don't ask for anything. If I ask for something, it's, hey, if there's anything I can do to help you, not asking for your business, like if there's anybody I can connect you with, is there anything I can do to help just provide value to you, please let me know. I'm always happy to do that. So it's never a sales pitch, ever, whether it's somebody I've never met that I'm connecting with for the first time, whether it's somebody that is a current customer, it's always just let's build a relationship, because that to me is where I think we can drive value and they can drive value to us in return, is just having those friendships and relationships. I think that's what builds long-term relationships. That's what builds referrals. And if I go to lunch with them 100 times and never write a bond form or never get any business, like, cool, I get to hear a success story from a cool guy who's running a company. Like, it's not that big a deal. I pay for a $40 lunch and get to, if nothing else, I get to listen to the way that he did something, and I might pick something up out of that that helps me grow. So it's, I always view it as I'm just building a relationship. There's never any sales, never any transaction, never any pitch. I'm just there to learn and enjoy the company of cool people.
So do you guys do EOS or any other sort of like business coaching program?
No, so I don't, but I'll give a shout out to Thomas Dunn and Stuart Gilly. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
So you had mentioned earlier about being held accountable and being challenged. So I've done a couple kind of business coaching sessions with those two guys, just awesome dudes. And in that, they were, one of the things I think they do extremely well is they're willing to push back and challenge you on things that are uncomfortable. And as you know, when you sit in the corner office, you get a lot of people telling you how you're making the right decisions and everything's great and blowing smoke. And I do think it's really valuable to have somebody push back and say like, yeah, but maybe you're wrong here. Like when Thomas and Stuart and I were talking, they were kind of just asking, learning more about our business. And I mentioned, our business is traditionally just a slow growth business. It's not something that grows really rapidly because it's all relationship driven. And they went, maybe. I went, no, it is. Like, that's the way it is. Maybe. And I was just like I'm not getting mad, but I'm kind of like, it is. Like, I know this. I'm in this every day. It is. And then I was like, guys, it really is. It's just slow growth. And then it was either Thomas or Stuart, I don't remember which one, said, yeah, but would it be if everyone universally agreed that you were by far the best provider? I went, maybe not. So it's having somebody in your corner who's willing to push on you and challenge you and hold you accountable and be willing to say you're wrong is wildly valuable in my opinion.
Yeah, and being so growth minded, right? Of the fact that when you entered the business, it grew, at 2x in before 5 years, and then all of these things that you're implementing now, basically growing the top line, and your costs really aren't changing. So you've got the growth, but having that coach or that plan to look back and say, well, eventually we're going to have to hire somebody else.
Right.
And so at what cost? Like, what's the cost of this growth? Like, what's the trade-off? And Stuart's actually been on the podcast. He and I have had a ton of amazing business conversations and just an amazing asset to entrepreneurs and really the city of Baton Rouge as a whole. How'd you get connected with those guys?
Actually, Thomas reached out to me via LinkedIn, and he's become a very good personal friend of mine. So I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Maddie's Footprints.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's an incredible organization. We provide grief counseling and funeral burial expenses for families who lose infants under 1 year old, and then through miscarriages, stillbirths. So my wife and I experienced 2 miscarriages, which and it was a weird connection. One of my customers actually just posted about supporting this event and was looking to raise money, and I just went in and donated. It's just like customer needs a donation for something, we'll donate. And then when I did it, I realized what the organization was and was like, man, what an awesome organization. I clicked on it and saw that they were actively looking for new board members. So joined, and it's just been an incredible, fulfilling organization that's been there for my wife and I in really painful times. And Thomas reached out, just having some similar heartstrings being pulled by the organization, and we connected that way and have just become really good friends through that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have a lot of folks who, there was just recently a gala or a ball or something like that. And it looked like all of my friends went to it. I'm like, man, I got to get behind this thing.
I'll invite you next year.
I'll come. That's one thing. It's like, I can't remember what TV show it was. Oh, it was Andy from The Office, and he says, like, if you invite me someplace, I'm going to be there. That's like kind of how I live my life.
My wife and I live our life. If it's on my calendar, I'll be there.
Oh, same.
There are plenty of times where like we won't discuss something, and I'll just look and see my wife added something to my calendar. I was like, all right, I got plans Wednesday night. Okay.
I think it's the ultimate sign of respect. If somebody invites you somewhere, like if you can make it, go. Like, and we all have life get in the way, right? Like, oh, I had a bad day at work, or my kid's sick, or blah, blah, blah. But like, I always give my wife a hard time. She's like, you think we could skip? I'm like, no. We said we were going to be there. They're counting on us to be there. Yeah. How would you feel if you had a birthday party and nobody showed up?
For sure. I also think it ties in a lot to my belief in business, and that's just doing what I say I'm going to do.
Yes.
Like if I tell you, hey, I'm going to shoot you this email in 10 minutes, like I'll tell people, if you don't have the email in 10 minutes, check your spam or call me back because something happened. Like if I tell you I'm going to send it to you, you are going to get this email from me. Same thing. If somebody invites me somewhere and says, hey, I'd like you to come, and I tell them yes, I will be there. Unless, again, like a huge something gets, a huge event happens that blows up my day. But with very rare exception. If I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there.
That's amazing. And it's right. I mean, it's integrity, right? It's doing what you say you're going to do. Like, we've got 5 core values, and integrity is one of those. And it's the same way. And it's not just a coincidence that you're successful in business and that you are so involved in these nonprofits and you have all these amazing relationships with people because they can count on you, right? And there's a sense of momentum behind that, isn't there? Like, gaining the trust of somebody who you really respect.
For sure.
And then they start like treating you like you're their mentor. And you're like, not in like a power struggle sense, but it's almost like the ultimate sign of respect. Like, they want to get your thoughts on a big move that they're about to make. And,
right.
Kind of like what we said earlier, like, the roles are reversed at this point. And I think for somebody who is like you, so young in your career, and again, it's not, I say young, I'm only talking about the years, but it's not the years, it's the miles.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny. I picked this up selling motorhomes. And like, I've been intentional that every job that I've had, from, flipping chicken at Raising Cane's to selling RVs to selling insurance to now, that I need to learn something, right? Yeah. And like, from Cane's, I learned that there's no downtime, right? If we're not doing this, we're doing this. Like, you've got to stay busy and productive throughout your time. In sales, it was, if I'm going to be selling a $200,000 motorhome to somebody and I'm 19 years old, like, they're trusting me with a large purchase. I'm not going to get any respect off like immediately out of the gate from them. The way that I'm going to gain the respect and close deals is I have to have the answer to every question. Yes. I've got to know more than anybody else knows. Yeah. I've taken the same approach here of like, as much learning and bettering of myself and my skills that I can do in my current business. Like, I might go sit down with a contractor who's 65 years old and is like, I've been getting bonds for longer than you've been alive, and completely fair. But I also know more about how this business works and how to get you a better situation than anybody else does. And that to me has driven a lot of value because, I'm the youngest person in almost every room that I go into. I've got to have every answer, right? Because if not, I'm not going to naturally get the respect. My hair is not gray enough, and it's just is what it is. So the counter to that is, I've got to know everything about the space that I'm in. Undeniable,
right? It's like, we talked about sports and referees and umpires. Like, I used to run umpires for your travel baseball tournaments. And it was the same way. Like, I was 19 years old running guys twice my age and all this and that, doing rule interpretations and dealing with pissed off parents and all these things. And you really just have to be undeniable. Like, it's like female referees. Like, you kind of have a target. Like, they're waiting for you to mess up, just like us younger guys, right? Yep. People are waiting for us to mess up. And so we've got to get ahead of that.
Yep.
And it's really cool that it's not just me that feels that way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's amazing. So as we wrap, man, like, it's not necessarily about the growth or the future of the company, but like, I always say these types of podcasts are like time capsules for us. Like, one day, our kids are going to look back on this and like watch this back and be like, I remember when I was a kid and my dad was, scaling his business and talking to other business owners. What does like a successful next 5 years look like for you?
It's a good question. So growth is obviously important. I think there are some of our competitors / colleagues, whatever you want to call them, that are in a position that a merger could make a lot of sense. Just given our long continuity plan, right? Like, I'm almost 30, so I've got quite a long time, and I'll probably never retire because I'll get bored and want to go do something else. So I have a long road in front of me in this business. I think there's some opportunities to make some acquisitions in the space, which would be really cool. I think the growth's been really good. The biggest piece to us is growing the right way. So growing with good contractors, growing with people that want to be better, that want to exceed, that want to do things the right way. And the biggest piece that I've learned from it is how we grow is more important than that we grow. So when I started, I was really intentional of like, I treat my customers a certain way. Like I'll do anything I can, whether it's like I've had situations where a customer can't figure out their QuickBooks accounting issues and they've called me and I've logged into their QuickBooks with them and helped them fix issues in there and recode things and help them fix things that I'm making $0 for just because, I mean, I've showed up at law offices to help negotiate claim situations with customers just because they called me and said, hey, I'd feel more comfortable if you there. None of those things make us any money, but to me, it's what needs to be done to protect our client and take care of them. So I've been very adamant to my team of like our core philosophy as a company is take care of people. And that's period. Like it's not take care of people so that we make money. It's take care of people. Like do whatever you need to just make sure that person's taken care of, whether we make any money or don't make any money. And what I learned pretty quickly was if I want my employees to take care of my customers the way that I would take care of my customers, I've got to take care of my employees to that same level. Yeah. It's like we don't have a set number of vacations at all. We don't like our employees have kind of a rough guideline of when they're supposed to be in and when they're going to leave. If an employee's late because they got stuck in traffic, you know, it is what it is, right? Like if you need to leave early because your kid has a soccer game or a baseball game or leave on a Friday because they got a tournament in Biloxi, that's more important. As long as taking care of our clients comes first, we have an unbelievable amount of flexibility. If you need to work from home this day, yeah, that's fine. And that has been hugely important for us. We have people tell us all the time, I've never had any company treat me the way that your team does, not like any other surety company, but any company we do business with. And I think that's so important and comes back to the way that we take care of them, right? We compliment the top of market. We're very generous with bonuses. We're super flexible with time off, with coming in late, with leaving early. So like one of our employees has a couple kids. They were high school age. So often she would say, hey, I need to leave early. They have an award ceremony this day or a tournament out of town this day or whatever it is. And we have never said no to anything that she wants to go do for her family. The flip side is I'll get emails from her sometimes at 10 o'clock at night where she's copying me in an email or on a Saturday or a Sunday. And she's really embraced that. Like Miller's going to give us the flexibility to go do whatever we need to go do as long as we take care of our people in that same way. So to me, continuing to focus and emphasize that is more important than the dollar value of how we grow. But we certainly have lofty expectations, right? Like, I mean, we want to double in the next 4 years and then double again in the 4 years after that, excluding acquisitions, just based on internal growth. This is kind of hard to quantify, but the goal is in 5 years. So this was set last year. So the end of 2030 to look back and it'd be very clear that we are the premier partner in the space. And part of that is a social media presence, right? To where if you ask anyone, hey, I need a bond. Like, do you know anybody who does this? That all of those roads lead back to us. And it's funny. We've had a couple situations, one of them in specific that happened a couple months ago. An owner of a company was asked for a bond and there are 3 partners in the company. And one of them said, hey, my dad has a really good friend in that business. I'll reach out and get his number. The other one said, hey, another company I'm invested in gets bonds through it. Let me check and see who we use. And the third one said, yeah, a good friend of mine's friend owns a bonding company. They were all 3 us.
Came back to y'all.
Yeah, all 3 of them through 3 different avenues. And I joked and said, all roads lead to SPS. But to me, that's so cool because referrals are our lifeline, right? Like we want to take care of people and get business driven to us because of the way we take care of people. And it's really cool to see like 3 different owners through 3 different parts of their life all got connected back to us. So it's that to me is what's important.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time.
For sure.
This just flew by. I'm really excited to follow your journey and keep growing together as proud husbands, dads, and business owners.
Same here.
Awesome, bro.
Been awesome. Thank you, dude.
Thank you.